The last may not have been heard of the land scams that recently engulfed Enugu State and were allegedly executed by a former Commissioner for Lands and Urban Development. And as Arise Ebel Ejikeme reports, properties that were forcefully grabbed and allotted to some other individuals without the state governor's consent have now been reversed.
Nigeria's southeastern Enugu state has in recent weeks been in the news over issues relating to indiscriminate land grabbing. There were allegations of abuse of office, land racketeering, illegal subdivision, nepotism, and acts detrimental to the state's Ministry of Lands and Urban Development. Former Commissioner of the Ministry, Victor Nnam, was accused of complicity in these acts. He has, however, denied any wrongdealings. In his resignation letter addressed to the Enugu State Governor, Nnam had cited the removal of professional heads of departments in the ministry as his reason for leaving. Mr. Nnam has declined to speak to Arise News on these allegations. However, these jubilant residents are thankful to the governor for restoring lands allegedly revoked by the former commissioner.
Aroh has already made a profile statement about the ordeals of which we passed through as a union under the former commissioner in the Ministry of Lands and Urban Development. But it's a thing of joy today that His Excellency has wiped away our tears. And as I'm talking now, we have our document from the Ministry of Lands and Urban Development that has restored plot 23CA to the Nigerian Union of Local Government Employees.
On Tuesday, because of the sit-at-home order, on Tuesday, the Commissioner of Lands and Urban Planning called me and gave me a letter of reversion.
The new Commissioner for Lands and Urban Development says the revoked properties were done without the knowledge of the governor and in violation of the Land Use Act.
Your Excellency, you ordered immediately a comprehensive investigation into the circumstances leading to this very big aberration in the process of your governance. After this whole investigation, it was clearly established, Your Excellency, that you did not even know, neither was your permission or approval sought in line with the requirements of the Land Use Act before any revocation was done.
What you have done in returning the land goes beyond reallocating or returning the lands to Norgay. It shows clearly that you are a courageous leader. Because some leaders believe in their pride. They will say, my government revoke it. Whether in error or in truth, I can't go back on it.
Many hope that this move by the Enugu State Governor will renew residents' confidence in government. Many here also believe that this will put an end to land grabbing and racketeering in the southeastern states. Abel Ejikeme, Arise News.
Right, to discuss this issue, we have joining us remotely the Commissioner for Lands and Urban Development, Chidi Aroh. Thank you so much for joining us on Newsnight tonight. Well, the question then would be, based on the intro there and the report by Abel Ejikeme, will the erstwhile Commissioner for Lands be made to answer to these allegations of land grabbing? And are there systems in the first place within the lands department to prevent this alleged excesses on the part of the former commissioner? Not too sure Mr. Chidi Aroh heard me there. My question was whether whether the former commissioner will answer to questions of these alleged abuses, land grabbing, nepotism, and all of that. And are there really systems that could have prevented this alleged excesses from happening in the first place?
Well, I have heard you, and I want to make it quite clear that the concentration of the government is in addressing the alleged injustices that are done. It is after addressing these alleged injustices that were done, it is after we have dealt with the breach in processes that has happened, That is primarily our responsibility at this point. If we do not assuage this situation, it will be like asking what happens if somebody murders a person. The right position of the process of leadership is to ensure that people are not killed, not necessarily to look at what punishment that follows. I am trained a lawyer, and I understand in our training as lawyers that the idea of the law is not necessarily to punish offenders and destroy offenders. It is actually to be sure that there's some kind of deterrence to make sure that these offenses are not committed. So right now what we are dealing with in the Ministry of Lands is to try to address the injustices that people say happen to them. It is primary that our responsibility as government is the welfare of the people of the state. So if we concentrate too much on saying we want to hold people accountable or not to hold people accountable before we discover to the great extent what has gone wrong, then we will be chasing shadows. So it is clear when there's an infraction, there are consequences for infractions. But before you come to the consequences for the infraction, you must do restitution. And that's what we have done with Noge, that's what we have done with the MNA community, and that's what we want to continue to do in the nearest period. That's why we heard His Excellency yesterday, made it clear. Please, if you have issues of your land having been taken away from you improperly, please bring it up. So we are concentrated at determining to what extent infractions were committed. And after that, the necessary decisions will be made as to where we go from there.
All right, Chidi, what I'm hearing you say is that, yes, somebody is going to be, there's going to be investigation, there's going to be interrogation. One thought both of them could go on pari passu, but that's by the way. Your predecessor said he accepted this appointment because he believed he will bring what he called on board best practices across the entire globe. But then he claims that professionals or professional heads were removed, and this was the reason he resigned. You know, why would professional heads be removed if that was the case?
Well, if I heard you well, your question is, why will professional heads be removed? It's very simple to answer. You work for Arise Television. In your period of employment, other people were employed. It is very possible that the management of Arise Television tomorrow, in order to make Arise Television more efficient, moves you from news to production. It's also possible that they move you from the newsroom where you're casting news to edit news. So I have never seen a public service sector that transfers, rotations are not routine. So I really don't even understand what anybody means by people being moved. People will retire by process of service, and if they retire, they will be replaced. People will die by process of nature. If they die, they will be replaced. So there is no public service in anywhere in the federation, even at the federal ministries level. Occasionally, the head of service moves permanent secretaries around. So it happens in the state service. So it happens in all our organizations. So I don't think that rotation of staff at any point in time. I use myself as an instance. I came into government in 2015 as commissioner for Enugu Capital Territory. In the wisdom of the governor who appointed me, he moved me from Ministry of Capital Territory to Ministry of Information. I went to the Ministry of Information, and from Ministry of Information, he's moved me now to Ministry of Lands and Urban Development. So will I say that I'm being moved around? This is routine in the process of governance for people to be taken from one position to the other. So I don't think that we have any real issues about professional heads being moved. There's routine transfers.
That point has been well made and well understood. But Mr. Victor, of course, the erstwhile Commissioner Victor Nam, claims that he actually made proposals for systems to be put in place to check incidences of land grabbing, the so-called GIS. Why was that proposal rejected? Because that's his claim. And what's happened to that proposal?
Well, I am surprised to hear this. You know, a lot of times Victor was my colleague, Victor was my friend. We worked together in the State Executive Council. So a lot of times I'm surprised to hear this. I don't even want to believe he said this. Because if you've worked in the State Executive Council, if you worked at this level of governance, you know that issues as important as implementation of projects of the magnitude of GIS are not issues that the governor can decide. They are issues that are discussed in the Executive Council of a state. And let me tell you, Enugu runs one of the most democratic executive councils I've seen. I've been in this executive council from the inception of the government. The governor only exercises a vote when there is a tie. And if there is no tie, decisions are made by majority opinion of members of the executive council. So if a memo came to the executive council, for instance, the governor could be very interested. He could even want that memo. But if by the majority argument of the members of the executive council, there's a decision against that memo, the governor will have nothing to do. Unless there's a tie, that's where he exercises a vote. And you see, there's something very unique we need to understand about this governor we've been working with. I want to tell you, I don't know whether there is any other state in Nigeria where a governor sticks to an approval limit of 25 million naira. Since I joined this government in 2015, this governor has not made an approval that is 1 naira beyond 25 million. It must come to the executive council.
Okay, that GIS, the GIS system, that GIS system, well, we'll have to leave it there, no time.
All right, thank you very much, Chidi Aroh, the Commissioner for Lands and Urban Development.